Day after Christmas, Mike T, Bart, RC, and Monica McNutt.
Hello,
And you know
gentlemen.
what? We're going to have Big Perk on as well.
We should. We have
Big
some good
Perk is
games
back.
yesterday.
But you know what? We have got to start things off with the upset of the night. The Lions, the Vikings, Christmas Day. Oh, this was huge for Detroit. They needed a win to keep their playoff hopes alive. They're trailing 7-0 here in the second quarter. And watch Jared Goff. Look at this throw to Isaac Tesla.
Every Isaac Tesla catch seems to have the most high degree of
It's been a horrible night for him. And look at the snap. A fumble. Goff, 5 turnovers. 5. The most of any game in his NFL career.
You cornbread, Van Ginkel said.
195 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 3 fumbles. Hey, the Vikings win it 23-10 with all the injuries mounting up there in Detroit. The Lions needed Jared Goff to step up. Instead, 5 turnovers, sacked 5 times. The 10 combined turnovers and sacks, the most in any career game for Goff, who's played in over 150 of them. Here is Goff and Dan Campbell on a miserable night.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks. We'll reflect on the whole season after next week, but yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, I'm going to be looking at a lot, you know. I'm going to be looking at a lot of things because I do not like being home for the playoffs, and I know our guys don't either. So, you know, and there again, whenever you lose, man, it takes a village, man. Everybody's involved, including myself, you know. So I'm always going to look at myself first.
You know, I think of Jared Goff kind of like in that Sam Darnold type category. Guys, you waiting for him to prove himself. And you know this, RC, you want a quarterback who can consistently raise your team and not be the reason that you lose big games in critical moments. So what did you think of Jared Goff's performance?
Well, I think first off, the reason I wouldn't compare him to Sam Darnold is because he's shown more than Sam Darnold has throughout his career, especially in the regular season. It's also why I think it's worse than Sam Darnold, because Jared Goff can build you up to make you believe that you have a chance. And then you go back to the Super Bowl versus Bill Belichick and the way that offense didn't show up under Sean McVay, or you go to the second half of the NFC Championship 3 years ago in San Francisco. Think back to last year against the Washington Commanders and all the turnovers Jared Goff had in that game. And now you're going to look at a must-have-it game for the Detroit Lions. You understand what your defense is facing with all of those injuries, and to turn the football over 5 times, to look hapless at many points of this game, and also to feel like you don't have an answer to what Brian Flores and their defense is presenting to you. It's unacceptable for Jared Goff. And this is an organization, this is a head coach, this is a general manager that has put the ultimate trust in Jared Goff to be able to elevate this team, and yesterday he let them down.
Oh, Mike T, what about Dan Campbell? Because how much, I guess, blame does he deserve? He took over the play calling duties here. I mean, you saw some bad exchanges, the snaps, all the offense just didn't get going at all.
It starts with Dan Campbell, and I work with him. Nobody will be harder on Dan Campbell than himself, but when they do the autopsy of this season, it's going to come down to 2 things, in my opinion. Number one, the decision to hire or promote John Morton. They knew that Ben Johnson was going to be a hot coordinator, and for him to have to take over the play calling, as you mentioned, Brian, in this day and age, there's elite guys like the Andy Reids of the world, Kyle Shanahan, but when you're responsible for clock management, when to throw the flag, I think it's very difficult to be an effective play caller and a head coach. And then the other part of it is their defense guys. They allowed 108 explosive plays. We saw Jordan Addison's play. They were 21st in defensive efficiency. They have a championship offense when they're rolling, but their defense is so flawed. And this really starts with Dan Campbell and some of the decisions he made in the offseason. But when your season is on the line and it's a running play that sends you home, that can't happen. This is a team that's lost 4 out of their last 5 games. They have a lot of issues to fix.
So you talk about the strategic advantage as well, right? Because you know who was undefeated against Brian Flores? Ben Johnson, because he had all the answers to the test, to that Amoeba type of defense. You know, and I think he gave Jared Goff a sense of calm whenever those things were coming. And, you know, to your point, Mike T, I think it's this defense. They really have to go out and address a pass rusher opposite of Hutchinson, because that's kind of where you get beat. And we talk about the last play, that's force. That's edge protection. That's not getting washed down. And they really have to take a look because this is an opportunity, for them to say we need to reset. They paid everybody on their staff. You talk about they paid Panay Sewell, they paid Williams, they paid Goff, Branch, Kirby. Now, so this is the team that they have. They can make minor changes, but they have to go back and figure out how do we take it to the next level because it looks like they've been caught by Green Bay. It looks like they've been passed by the Bears, and they find themselves looking up in the division.
You see it closing? The window closing?
Also, too, though, I think with Johnny Mo, whether you had to replace him or not is one thing.
Yeah.
It looks like Ben Johnson took the physicality of this offense with him to Chicago as well. And Dan Campbell is a culture setter. We saw that from the first press conference when he was selected as the head coach. But schematically, it's like the physicality was gone. Ragnow retires. When he tries to come back, he fails his physical. And so there's so much going on with this team. They have to figure out what's going to be their priority to fix first.
But scheme sometimes dictates aggressiveness. It's how you call the game, right? If a defense isn't aggressive, you blitz them, right, to make them aggressive. So that's something they have to figure out what's going to be their identity on the offensive side going forward.
We got a lot to talk about, including whether or not the Super Bowl.
We're on. Do you know how many affiliates we're on? We're on 400 affiliates.
Our audience is massive.
Do you know how many Lions fans there are? We're on Sirius XM Channel 8. We're on your smart speaker. We're on TV in every gym in America.
Absolutely.
Every spinning class in the United States.
Yep.
I bet we're going to have full lines on this topic.
Not wanting to fire Dan Campbell. That's what I'm saying. I don't think there are real people that want to fire Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
I think there might be bots on the internet.
Yeah.
Right? I think there might be, 749-289 Sam that might want to fire Dan Campbell, but I'm not sure. I don't believe a real person wants to fire.
You believe
Dan
it's
Campbell.
Russian interference.
Absolutely.
That's trying to fire Dan Campbell. Okay, Emmett, I will tell you this, okay? Of all the teams in the league this year, I knew the Browns and the Jets, some of these teams were going to struggle.
Right.
Cincinnati's been a real disappointment, but a lot of that is injury-driven.
Yeah, Burrow got hurt.
But I think when you look at not that like the sports gods were against them. Lamar Jackson, it looks like, is not going to play tomorrow night for the Ravens. Like the reason they fell apart, I think, is mostly the fact they didn't have their MVP quarterback all year.
Right.
Emmett, I think the Detroit Lions are the most disappointing team in the NFL this year.
Yeah.
They're coming off a year where they were the prohibitive Super Bowl favorites.
15-2.
They fell flat on their face in a playoff game against Jaden Daniels, a rookie quarterback they had at home.
Yeah.
To lose that game, then they come in this year, Emmett, on paper, their roster, they are as talented a team as you will find. Do they have good receivers? Yes. Do they have a tight end? Yes. Can they block you? Yes. Jahmyr Gibbs is electric. They've got guys on defense.
Yeah, you got a great pass rusher and everything.
How are they 8-8 and out of it with a week to go? They're playing a meaningless game for the Detroit Lions next week.
It shows you how fast things come at you in the NFL. You could be on top of the world one moment, and next thing you know, you're wondering where did it all go wrong, because you're right. There are teams you just understand why they had a bad year.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily understand why Detroit had a bad year. Right?
I'm going to say, can I try to answer that question?
Sure, go for it, because I can't answer that question.
I think it started when Ben Johnson left.
Okay. Yeah,
I
good
think
point.
that was the beginning of, because I think at that point, he and Dan Campbell were a great combination together, because Dan Campbell could give the locker room speeches,
bite your kneecaps,
bite a bunch of kneecaps, be the resource for the team, relate to players really well. And then if you wanted somebody who could cook up an awesome offensive game plan to just smoke you,
right,
Ben Johnson was the guy. So then this year, they bring in new offensive coordinator who then kind of gets fired, right, halfway through the season.
Got play calling taken away from him,
Correct.
Which is never a good thing. It's one of my rules.
So that was emblematic. You brought this up yesterday that you thought the Lions, you kind of knew that things had gone off the rails. I kind of knew that things had gone off the rails when they played so poorly against the Packers in the first game of the season. I was like, what is going on there?
Yeah, I don't put any stock in anything that happens in the first 2 or 3 weeks of the NFL
But I don't either.
like,
but
at all.
Hold on, but in hindsight, it was a precursor of things to come when they couldn't score at Lambeau.
Hindsight, sure. I think we could look at that now and make that connection. The fact of the matter, though, is if I know that fan base has got to be disappointing. One of the toughest things, I think, for an NFL team to do, especially when you're coming out of being the bad team, is doing it multiple years in a row.
Yeah.
We here in Cleveland, we've actually seen the Browns go to the playoffs twice in a span of like 4 or 5 years, which we hadn't seen in 20-something years. But what happened every time the Browns made the playoffs, the next year, boom, right in the toilet.
Well, the Lions had been good for like 3 years in a row. There was a year, the year they should have gone to the Super Bowl when they had the 17-point lead at halftime. I don't want to remind Detroit fans of that. But I guess now you're wondering, if you're a Lion fan, looking ahead, Emmett, is an era over, or did they just have one bad year and they can bring back this core? Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, St. Brown, and Laporta, and Aiden Hutchinson, and is that the core of a Super Bowl team, or do they need to shake it up? Is the bigger problem the coach? Or I've also heard some Lions fans wondering about the quarterback. And certainly Sean McVay felt this way about Jared Goff. He wouldn't have traded for Matthew Stafford otherwise.
Yeah, I think this is where we overreact.